Hello and welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends spin a wheel once a week. It chooses the horror film and they discuss it. Today we're talking about 1964's The Last Man on Earth, which was directed by Sidney Salco and Ubaldo B. Ragona. I'm your co-host, Alec.
I'm Eric, and with us is Bonnie Marie Williams. Bonnie, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's going to be a good time.
I love that.
Okay, I'll leave. Bye.
Was that a ghoul joke?
Yes, exactly. That's what that was.
You ever see the Always Sunny thing with Charlie when they're asking him his hobbies, and he's just like, what are your hobbies? He's like, magnets. It's like, what are your interests? He's like, ghouls. It's like, ghouls? It's like, yeah, ghouls are different than goblins, because ghouls are like mischievous.
I don't remember that, but now I want to see it.
I'll send it to you.
Yes,
it's
please.
Classic.
Oh, that's great.
Well, Bonnie, thank you very much for joining us. You're a recommendation from one of our other guests, Andy Danish, who's been on the podcast a bunch of times, so obviously we take his recommendations very highly, so thank you for joining.
Sure, Andy's all right, I guess.
I'm sure he'd have some quip back to that, but we love Andy.
No, Andy's great.
Last week, I actually said something that I thought is kind of funny. So I was like, yeah, next week we have Bonnie Tyler coming on for the podcast. So I said Bonnie Tyler, like the singer of like Total Eclipse of the Heart. So if anybody was expecting that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, hopefully we got a couple extra clicks from that. That'd be cool.
People were like, no way. Like, why is she coming on? But yes, Bonnie Marie Williams.
Yeah, not Bonnie Tyler. Sorry. I wasn't even named after her either. I'm doubly disappointing right now.
Well, this is your first time. So one of the things we usually do with guests, first time on the podcast is we just kind of ask about like their history with horror, what got them into that, and why'd you choose this movie?
Okay, well, where do I start with first? So what got me into it was my dad I was raised on an interesting diet growing up of comic books and sci-fi, musical theater, and classic horror films. So, nice. And The Muppet Show. It's a very strange combination, but it all makes sense. So growing up and watching a lot of these during Halloween was just a normal thing. Like I would watch this every Halloween with my dad, and I saw this. I mean, pretty much any classic black and white B film back then, I've seen it, and I have a soft spot for those. So it was just kind of something I was born into, for lack of a better term. Like growing up, I knew it was Halloween because when it would be time to decorate, my dad would get out his Elvira cardboard cutout from her Coors Light campaign.
Oh, Eric.
I'm dating myself, yeah.
I also have a Elvira cardboard cutout, but it doesn't have Coors Light to it.
From the 80s, and he would put that up and go, okay, I decorated, and that's how I knew it was Halloween growing up. So even before I could really put together what was happening, I was like, oh, it's spooky time. So, and Elvira's great. So that was kind of how I got into it. I mean, I think we were talking about earlier, my favorite TV show is Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I started watching that when that came out when I was probably too young to watch it, but that was a big influence on me, and I love horror. I think it's fun to be scared, and I think, honestly, the real world is scarier than anything we see in the films. So... Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was kind of how I got into it, and now I'm working on a documentary, and it's not part of the Struck work, so I can, talk about it briefly, but nice. I'm working on a documentary about America's first horror theme park, and that is going to be debuting out here in LA tomorrow at Beyond Fest. So very exciting, and like Elvira's in it, so it's full circle. Linda Blair's in it, so it's just this really cool thing, like growing up with horror movies as a kid, and now I'm working on a horror documentary. It's pretty rad.
Oh my god,
that's amazing! So you got actual Cassandra Peterson in it.
There's a lot of cool people in it, yeah. So
that's awesome. That is so. I'm absolutely checking that one out. That's so cool.
It's called Spooktacular, America's first horror theme park, and that is with Tom Savini as an executive producer.
Where is that located? West Coast?
That was over in Berlin, Massachusetts, and then it got moved to the Patriots Stadium, and then it, ownership and everything changed. But we talk about that in the movie, so it's really cool. It's been a really cool thing to be a part of, and it's Baby's first producer credit, so that was really cool too.
Oh my god, congrats! That's so sick. Congratulations.
thank you.
You're talking to two guys that, I mean, I went to a Halloween theme park for like 15 years in a row. Like, I love that stuff. So
Oh, you'll love it. Yeah.
absolutely watch this. Yes.
It's really cool. And I do voiceover in it too. So, just my day job. It's fine.
No, that's a great way to do it. I mean, and it's so cool that, it's horror and that you grew up with it. So it's like, those are the kind of projects that you love. It's something that when you were a kid that, you can do as an adult. It's like, it's so surreal.
It's so cool. Yeah.
Well,
It's
congrats.
wild. It's totally wild. Thank you.
Now, where are you from?
I am from out here in Southern California. So
okay.
I grew up out here and then I moved to the East Coast for about, I'm doing math. This is why I was a theater major, so I don't have to do math. I was there 5 years full time and then I was bi-coastal for a year. And then, family out here and work out here brought me back and I moved back part of the way last year and then finalized my move back, within the last few weeks. So it's been a bit of a move back, but yeah, from out here. So I didn't really have real fall weather until I lived on the East Coast and that was really nice, but it also came with humidity and I don't miss that. So
that's what I was going to say. I was like, oh yeah, you got to experience like the true Halloweens of the leaves changing and the pumpkin patches and all that stuff. But
all that stuff, yeah. But now it's back to 100-degree Halloweens, but it's home. It's home.
Yeah, I get it. No, I do. And I gotta say, LA actually does impress me with the Halloween stuff. Like it's decked out everywhere you go. Restaurants, bars, it's just like fake spider webs everywhere.
Grocery stores.
So much is filmed out there. Like, Halloween is supposed to be, what, Illinois? It's like, no, it was all California.
Pasadena, yeah.
Been there. That's so cool. Yeah.
The Indian restaurant next door is fantastic, by the way. So, okay, and then I guess the final question then, before we dive into the film, why did you choose this one?
Okay. This is the sentimental part of the show. This was a movie that I used to watch, like I said earlier, every Halloween with my dad, and my dad passed away about 10 years ago. So it's a way of keeping that tradition alive, and he really gave me an appreciation for these films where I think this one is so often overlooked, and there are people out there who are out of their minds who think that Vincent Price is not a good actor, and then I point them to this. I said, he carries this film. Right. You watch this movie and tell me you don't think he's a good actor. Just sit through it and tell me you don't think he's good. But
he's a good actor. He's not a good runner, though, in his running scenes.
Well, I have asthma. He's better than I am.
That's so nice. Yeah, I lost my dad, too, about 15 or so years ago, and the movies we used to watch together, like Donnie Darko and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, you totally get it. It's a way of keeping them with you and carrying on those traditions together. And it's something that means a lot to me. And I think it's not talked about enough, especially from the last few years. So I've gained a deeper appreciation of it the last few years during, the panini that we've all faced together.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, that was why I still watch it every Halloween, and it's my favorite holiday because it was the holiday with my dad and my family. And this film to me is Halloween, and then my second favorite horror movie is Halloween. But it's something that I don't think is talked about enough as a really good film. And there's actually clips of this in the documentary in Spooktacular, and Vincent Price's daughter is also in the film and is one of the producers, and she gave her blessing to use these clips, and it's so cool. And I was telling the director, like, hey, I know what this is from, and he said, how do you know that movie? And I said, it's like my favorite horror movie. Of course I know it. So it means a lot to me, and it really goes back to my dad, who made me way cooler than I ever thought I would be as an adult when I got made fun of with all this stuff when I was a kid. So,
did you ever watch Buffy with him, or was he like not into it?
Oh no, he was totally into it.
Good.
I got to watch it with him. I was watching the first episode because I loved the movie when I was little. I thought the movie was hilarious because it had Paul Rubens in it, and I loved Pee-wee when I was little.
Right.
And so I was watching the TV show. And, he came out to the living room to sit with me and watch it. And he thought, she was going to die in the first episode. And she started staking a vampire. And he went, oh, this is so cool. So he watched it with me from then on. Like, we would watch every episode together. So.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's special. That's nice.
Yeah. We a lot of people just recommend it. Like, yeah, I saw it when I was a kid. It was cool. But, like, to have something that, like, actually brings a lot of sentimental value to it and a story, it's really special. So thank you for sharing this film and that story with us.
Thank you for letting me share that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and it's funny, Eric, your favorite film is Halloween. Look at that.
Yeah, but that's Bonnie's second favorite. So sorry, Bonnie. It's my favorite.
Well, it's okay. You can have that one. It's all right.
I mean, it's probably a lot of horror movie fans' favorite movie. But
Well, to jump into this film a little bit, it's crazy. I knew the title. I just had heard it. Obviously, I think with that TV show coming out, I was like, is that like a reboot show or whatever? I never watched it. But to now finally be able to see it and to piece it together and then find out that it was the original I Am Legend film, I was like, oh, it just like all these things started clicking or whatever. So I loved it. I thought it was really cool. And considering the year it came out, it felt like the B movies that you were talking about from like the 50s. Like it feels like an older movie than it even is,
Oh, yeah. It feels older than it is, and it also, in some parts of it, I would say it doesn't feel that old. It's like it kind of feels like an old movie, but in other parts you go, this doesn't feel that old. I don't know. It's somewhat timeless, if you will.
Yeah, at first I was a little bit like, oh boy, is this just going to be him surviving or whatever? And then like the twist of vampires comes in. Like I genuinely didn't know anything about this. So I like when vampires were there, I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then it all started clicking and I was like, okay, this is I Am Legend or whatever. But I don't know. I thought the pacing was really good. I liked the introduction of like this society or whatever at the end. And then the very like Frankenstein kind of ending. Like, I don't know. I was really digging it. Eric, I mean, was this your first time seeing it?
first time I've heard of it. Yeah.
Even heard
to be honest, heard of it, never heard of Last Man on Earth. Watched it, looked up some stuff, was blown away. And it's like, why do I have a horror podcast when I don't know this shit? It's just like, I'm a very big, like Alec always jokes about, like me, like respect your elders, like respect the older movies. I'm a huge Universal monster fan, but never saw this one, never heard of it, but read up about I Am Legend, Omega Man, the fact that this inspired Romero's Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the book is what, from the 50s or 40s, I Am Legend. So it's just like, there's so much rooted in this movie that the history behind it's fantastic. And it's such a good choice to watch. And I really, really enjoyed this movie.
Yay.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
I did make the mistake of watching it in color, though.
I did too. Wait, it's in black and white?
Yeah.
It's in black and white. That's the best way to watch it.
I had no idea.
It's okay. You still saw it at the end of the day, but when you watch it again, watch it in black and white, and maybe you'll appreciate it that much more.
Yeah.
We're looking at the upside here.
I will say this, when he was doing the blood transfusion at the end, I was like, that doesn't look like blood. Like, at all. It looks like... I was like, that is the darkest, like, not even, like... I don't know. It was funny.
In black and white, it looks like blood.
Yeah, yeah. That's probably it.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Bonnie, have you read the book, and have you seen Omega Man or I Am Legend?
Okay, so I never actually read the book, but my dad did, and we had a rule in my house growing up where he said, if it's out on the shelves, you can read it. If it's out on the shelves in the living room for like a DVD, you can watch it. That was the rules. But like when I was 12, I started reading Carrie, and my dad said, I know what I told you. I know what the rule is. But maybe wait on that one just for like a few years. Maybe just a few years. Yeah. I would strongly recommend you wait on that one. So I was like, okay, fine. So I put that one on the back burner for a while. But I've actually never read the book. But I have seen all three of the adaptations. I've seen this. Omega Man is wild. And I've seen I Am Legend with Will Smith. So I feel like I know the story enough. But yeah. Now I feel like a bad fan. Like, I haven't read the book.
I mean, haven't we also like lived through this to some capacity? Like, especially with the vampire bite. It's like, isn't that how they initially said COVID started? It was a vampire or a bat, and then it was like someone ate a bat, and then it was like, oh no, it's a pangolin, and then they moved onwards from there. But this kind of hit home. It's like, oh wow,
yeah.
This seems like the story structure of the whole COVID, history.
Totally. I watched this on Halloween 2020. So it was the first year of COVID, and it was extra spooky. It was chilling. It just hit differently. I went, oh, this feels real, and it felt more real than it ever had before. And that's, I think, why I appreciate it that much more now, is because it doesn't just seem like some hypothetical thing. It's like, no, this is real. Like, this could very well be real, and it makes it that much scarier, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking while watching this too, yeah.
Well, the intro is so cool that it's just like all these empty streets and just like, yeah, I mean, it kind of did look like COVID when they showed Times Square and stuff, and you're like, there's no one outside. Like, and it was real. And that's kind of what I Am Legend was, like, because I think that takes place in New York, but whatever.
Mm-hmm. It's supposed to, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciated the tension, but I just felt it was much more believable than the Will Smith one. It just, because It felt like this was a guy that he was a doctor, and they showed those flashbacks that kind of just justified him knowing certain things. But I don't know. The Will Smith one kind of seemed like a superhero movie in a weird way.
Yeah, 100%.
And it always blends with iRobot for me, too. Just like similar kind of like looking villains. Like they were just like white, bald, kind of like creature things, but in the robots. But I don't know. Didn't have the same impact, I don't think.
I would agree.
And the dog, too. The dog's totally different. When I saw this dog, I was like, oh, I bet there's going to be a German Shepherd. And it's this, like, tiny little poodle. I was like, oh, okay. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Which I sent you both out on Instagram. I should have texted it to you, but just Miley going nuts watching the dog show up. And then she was just jumping at the TV for, like, 10 minutes. And then the dog dies. And it's like, okay. Kind of glad that happened because I don't have to deal with Miley jumping at the TV every time a dog's on the screen. But, yeah.
Yeah.
That's one way of looking at it, I guess.
It's the only way I look at it. As long as my dog's calm, like
she's freaked out. That's like she does that all the time, though. I mean,
well, I've had her since we started the podcast, pretty much, and that dog has seen some shit, some movies I watch, and this one is no different. No different.
Yeah, you made her watch. You like Clockwork Orange for Cujo, right?
Yeah, that was bad too. That was a bad one.
You forced her eyes open. You're like, you're gonna watch this. Yeah, it was funny that you were saying though, because I think the reason that he says in this movie that he was immune is because he was somewhere and he got bit.
He was bit by a bat in Panama.
Yeah,
right.
So he's like, he thinks he's the only one that can survive this, right? Because of that.
Yeah, that's the theory.
That's
like he got bacteria from a bat in Panama.
Yeah, and he becomes immune, and then he's able to give it, like, inject it to other people, and then they're able to, like, immediately get cured. Like, I was like, damn, I don't know. That's why I kind of got mad at the woman. I can't remember her name. Why didn't she just run in there and be like, wait, guys, stop. Like,
well, he didn't really let her leave. Oh. Remember, she was like, I need to go. And she's like, no. Like, you know what this means? Like, let me show you this.
Right.
And it's like, oh, the timing was just poor.
Yeah, because at the end I was like, fuck, they don't realize what they're doing.
Well, it's kind of like the end of Night of the Living Dead, you know?
Right.
It's like they don't know that they're killing normal people.
Right. Well, these guys are killing literally their only chance of, like, survival. It's so great. So just so I, like, understand this right. So this guy lives alone, and he goes out during the day looking for vampires to kill, gathering resources. These vampires all know he's there, though, because they come at night and they say his name and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So
Morgan. Yeah, and they're like banging. Yeah.
Which is Ben. That's his friend from the birthday party. Mm-hmm. Which the subtitles helped me out to figure that out. But he also mentions Ben again, which I would never have made the connection if it wasn't like the subtitles with Ben saying like Morgan.
Yeah. But if it was you guys and like every night this was happening, wouldn't you be like, you know what? They know where I am. I think I'm gonna go to like Tahoe or something. Like, you know, you'd go somewhere else. Why do you guys think he stayed?
Because he knows that they're weak. They're not like strong zombies. And he's like, the garlic on the door and the mirror on the door will do it.
Yeah.
And also that's his home.
It's his home. Is he being stubborn? Like, I'm a stubborn person. Like, you're not going to force me out of my home, you jerks. You know, I don't know, something like that. Or if we want to maybe dig a little deeper, is some companionship, even though they're trying to kill him. I'm not saying it's healthy, but is some better than nothing at all? You know, like.
Right. At least he's like, you know, he's almost like he's comforted by the smashes at night now. He's like, at least I know they're out there, you know?
Yeah. Maybe the quiet would be too quiet.
Well, maybe one of the reasons why is because he's hoping for a cure and he doesn't want to leave Ben behind because he says that's like his closest childhood friend.
That's his bro.
His bro. Like, you don't want to leave your bro. Your bro's still outside. It's kind of like at the end of Shaun of the Dead. You know, it's like, I'm still hanging out with you, dude.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I looked up these actors, so there's one person still alive from this movie, but I was like, man, the wife looks like a lot younger than Vincent Price. He was like 40 years older than her in this movie. I mean, I don't know. I love how, like, back in the day, like, nobody would question these kind of things, but I'm looking at it now, I'm like, he looks like he's her grandpa.
Yeah.
Like,
you know, she married him for his great personality, so.
Well, and also, I didn't know it was dubbed. Sometimes I was like, wait, what's going on with the voices? And then it was like, oh, this is kind of like a spaghetti western. I looked it up and it was filmed in Italy and everything like that. And sometimes it actually doesn't look that bad, but other times I was like, oh no.
Yeah, it's one of those things, as soon as you notice it, you can't unsee it.
But, you know, it kind of adds a little charm to it. And it made me think, like, how did they film this? Because, like, Vincent Price doesn't speak Italian, I'm assuming. So, like, how did they do this? Was it like she was just, like, saying the lines in Italian and he was just saying his lines in English?
Yeah. Like, wait until, Darth Vader's done pointing, and then, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I just feel like a movie like this, because, like, I've seen a lot of spaghetti westerns, and it's like, okay, it's a lot of, like, shooting and, like, get away from him and, like, you know, whatever. But this was, like, full-blown, like, drama scenes, and I was like, man, this must have been really hard to film.
Which makes it that much more impressive, I would say, with his performance especially, you know, like, to stay so focused as an actor. And if you have somebody saying something back to you in a different language, but you can feel what they're trying to say and you can hear the tone, and I don't know, I think that just adds a layer of, well, that's a cool acting project, you know?
Well, I can't believe people would say that he's a bad actor. Because, I mean, that one scene where he's, like, laughing and just losing it, like, that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And his voiceover work in between. And you hear his loneliness and his survival instincts. And you can hear so much in his voice. And he's just so good. And that's why I get so mad when people think, you know, he's just a goofy guy that's not a good actor, or they don't take him seriously. And that's when I tell them, no, watch this movie. Like, if you don't think he's good, watch him carry this movie essentially by himself and tell me you still think the same way.
Yeah, and I like to think, like, he did a great job portraying someone who, like, if you remember the calendar at the beginning of the movie, where it's, like, writing on the wall, like, the months and stuff and crossing out, like, each day, he did a great job portraying someone who has been through that.
Yes.
Yeah, I liked it a lot, and he looked a lot to me like Walt Disney in this movie too.
He reminded me of Donald Sutherland in this movie a little bit. Like, I saw a little Donald Sutherland action.
Really?
From, like, Hunger Games, like, Snow. I don't know, something about that guy as well. It reminds me of Vincent Price.
Yeah, him with the cigarette, I was like, he looks like Walt Disney. But then it made me think, yeah, God, being addicted to cigarettes in the apocalypse must suck. Because, like, what are you going to do?
Ooh.
This is 1964. There's no Nicorette. Like, you're just kind of like, I'm fucked. So, like, you're just going to go out and get cigarettes every once in a while.
I mean, he finds garlic. I don't know how the hell you find garlic in the apocalypse either.
No, he had the freezer. He had the big meat freezer, so he's keeping it fresh.
But, like, still, like, that's crazy too in my mind.
Well, you know, this is kind of like before all of these, like, established vampire movies kind of, like, elaborated on the lore a little bit more. Because to me, these are more like zombies, you know?
They talk too, like, Borgid. It's like, all right, I don't know about you, but, like, at 3 a.m. if someone's calling my name, Eric, it's like, all right, I'm fucking killing this motherfucker right now. Like, I'm done. I'm done.
Whistling.
Like, Alec, I don't care. I love you, Alec. But if you're outside my house, like, 3 years later, still like, Eric, let me in. I'm like, all right, Alec, I love you. Stake through the heart. Sorry, bro.
Well, they're so weak. So that's the thing. I mean, there's that one scene where he's going to his car, and there's like 20 of them, and he's just kind of like batting them off or whatever. And I was like, you know, you could kill these guys, I feel like, you know? Put on like some armor.
Just pushes them over, dude. They're like Flat Stanley. He just goes right through them.
Yeah. All right, so then we kind of get into, you know, because they do all the flashbacks, which kind of explains how the virus takes off and all that stuff. But then they start really talking about this other group of people, and they know about Vincent Price, and they're like, we know where he is, and we're going to infiltrate him by sending a woman in there to basically, like, I don't know, trick him or find out some information about him. But, like, I don't know. That tactic seems so weird to me. Are they getting revenge on him because he's killing innocent people?
He's killed. They mentioned that he killed people in that group that are loved ones and stuff. So those people are probably heated with him. They probably never thought a thing of it until recently when he killed, like, daywalkers, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Because these are infected people, but the sunlight doesn't bother them, and mirrors still bother them a little, garlic still bother, but they're still not, like, totally, you know, infected. They have, like, antibodies or whatever, but once their antibodies are met with his blood, all figures out. And they have a vaccine as well, because you remember she wanted to stick herself like a heroin addict, remember?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, they have cures and stuff, and it's just like, oh, man, you're, like, 85% there. If you had Vincent Price on your team, like, this would all be over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it wears off after some time, so it's like they keep needing to do it, and he's that last piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, he should have let Ruth run. Like, listen, they're gonna come and like kill you. It's like, I don't care. It's like, no, these guys are gonna show up in army trucks with like AK-47s. Yeah. Like, you don't understand. They're coming to kill you tonight. Like, I wish she said that. Like, listen, I know you think they're not gonna kill. They're going to fucking murder you. I wish she said that.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. Like, Bonnie, I always do this with movies. Like, I loved this movie, but I always like pick it apart where I'm like, wait, why did they do this? Why did they do that?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. I'm not, offended or anything.
Oh yeah. But so the ending, so it's like this town just attacks him, and if they only knew that his blood would work, which the Ruth finds out that this actually does work. They use his blood because he got bit by the bat, injects it into her. She's not a vampire anymore, so it would work. But yeah, we just get this intense battle basically, and Vincent Price ends up getting killed, kills a few people, throws a bunch of smoke bombs.
And he says the line, I mean, there's a couple lines in this movie. They say, like, once, at one point in the movie, like, you're a legend.
Yeah, I loved that.
You heard that, so that's a nice line to the book. And then there's also at the end, when he's dying, he's like, I was the last man on Earth. Because these people aren't men, they're infected people.
What does he say? He's like, they're afraid of me. Like, he said that, right?
They're freaks and this and that. So they're mutants at this point to him. They're X-Men. But then it cuts to a baby at the end crying, which looked like a boy. But that boy isn't a man either. It's an infected mutant, is my take on it. Unless I'm wrong. Bonnie, what was your take at the end with the baby?
At the end, I saw it as, we just saw him die, so there's an example of death, and then here's an example of life. But I don't think it's supposed to be a hopeful example. I think it's like, oh, this is just going to keep going on.
Yeah, well, it's going to keep going on with these mutants.
Yep, exactly.
Stuff. So he actually was the last man on Earth.
Yes, 100%.
Even though there's a boy, which it looked like a boy. Okay, we'll say whatever, but yeah.
But I didn't see it as a sort of like, oh, well, here's hope. There's a baby. It'll be fine. It's like, no.
No. Yeah, there's hope for this group of people, but not for humanity.
Well, there's also potentially, what if they take her blood? What if they take Ruth's blood now and inject it in?
That's a great point. Or is she going to get ostracized from the group now, too?
Because she's holding him at the end, yeah.
Yeah, because she got close to him. But, I mean, all she has to do is just, like, sit down and be like, all right, yeah, this is what happened. Like, I don't know.
But she was also bit by Ben again, so does that mean she's reinfected?
I don't know.
She's probably reinfected.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the baby's a vampire, too, so it's like, yeah, they're all...
Yeah, no, the baby is definitely, like, one of them.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah, I don't know. Makes you think. But yeah, Bonnie, what made you think that this was like a really important film? You were saying earlier about that.
Yeah, I feel like not all films feel relatable. We're going to relate to different things. Some characters relate, or some people relate to other characters and some people don't. And that's what's great about art is there's something for everybody. And when there's not, somebody will create something for everybody. Like some people love Halloween, some people don't. And I feel like this movie feels more important because it's something we all went through. It's something that everybody on this planet in some degree or another went through. This giant apocalypse, plague, whatever you want to call it. Like, we all went through that together. Again, to different degrees and everything, but this makes it feel so much more relatable than it ever did before. And I don't feel like enough people talk about this as a horror film and how it inspired other horror movies as well. Like, I don't think this gets nearly enough credit for the movie that it is. And it's, far from perfect, but it's damn good.
It's good.
Yeah, I think everything you just said is absolutely correct. And I also think at the end about the influencing other films. I mean, geez, if you were to take a clip of this movie from the people breaking in the door and say it was from Night of the Living Dead, I bet a lot of people would believe you. So it's like, it clearly was, it was almost like the Black Christmas to Halloween. Like, a lot of people credit Halloween with, like, really kicking off the slasher genre, but there were films before that get overlooked.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I'm very happy that you introduced this to us. And do you have any other Vincent Price movies that you love?
Oh, gosh. I have a whole bunch of them on DVD, and I just got them out of my move coming back. But, I loved, and I know it's not a full-on Vincent Price film, but I loved Edward Scissorhands when I was little. And, he has a lot of appearances in the new Spooktacular documentary. Ooh. But Oh, I know. I mean, I love House of Wax too. And so many people love that one, but he's just so good. I would say this one is absolutely my favorite though, but it's hard to not like him in anything. I mean, I don't know, anything he's in, I'm down, but this one is my favorite. This one, if I had to save one in a fire out of every single film he's ever done, it would be this one.
Wow. Yeah.
I think he's one of the actors that, like, you think of the Universal monsters, the Lon Chaney's and Bela Lugosi's. The next generation soon after is Vincent Price, and he's always been the only one in that group of the 50s and 60s in my mind.
Mm.
Yeah.
And the thing that I just love so much about horror is, like, there is such an appreciation from the younger generations for things that are way older. I mean, there's people that like, oh, I like Clark Gable and like stuff like that, but that's not like, there's not as much passion behind that as there is with horror films. Like, everybody loves, I mean, I'm assuming you like Ed Wood, like his films.
Oh, yeah.
Those B movies. I mean, like, nobody's going to know what that is in 50 years, but maybe there are going to be passionate fans that keep that kind of stuff alive and keep Vincent Price's name in the cultural zeitgeist, and documentaries like what you're doing. Like, that's the kind of stuff that's going to keep this relevant. So very cool that you're doing that. And thanks again for showing us this film.
Absolutely. I should show you guys a picture of the Vincent Price candle I got from one of the diners in my neighborhood. There's a server there who just makes horror candles, and I saw they had Vincent Price, and I said, oh, I'm bringing that home with me. Like, it's so cool. It's like a giant Vincent Price bust, and it's purple, and it's got him scowling, and it's amazing. And that's on my my bookshelf behind my couch. It's great.
Send us the picture. We'll post it.
I'm going to. It's
awesome.
cool. Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad you guys liked it.
No, it was really cool. Yeah, thank you. And do you want to plug anything? Do you want to talk about your documentary? Anything at all?
Sure. So that we've been working on for the last few years. It is called Spooktacular, and it is about America's first horror theme park, which is SpookyWorld out near Boston. And that is going to be premiering tomorrow in LA out here at Beyond Fest, and it just premiered at Fantastic Fest in Austin. So it's doing the film festival circuit right now, and Tom Savini is an executive producer, and we've got Linda Blair in it. It's really fucking cool.
That's so awesome. Well, once it's done doing the film circuits, and if it does get streaming anywhere, if you want to come back on the podcast and talk about it again, we'd love to have you on.
Sounds great. Well, that sounds great. I'd love to come back.
We'll say Bonnie Tyler again just to see if we get more clicks. And stuff
all right,
as well.
Cool.
We'll
that works. I'll see if my people can call her people, and I'll just give her lines. She can be me.
I honestly mean this. I'm going to watch your doc, and it sounds really cool.
Awesome. I'm glad. It's going to be dope.
Well, Bonnie, thank you again. And this is the last film on our wheel, and we're actually about to move into our October wheel, so get ready for that.
This was a fast summer, dude. This is a fast summer.
I know. It really did fly.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Next week, we actually have an unbelievable episode. So this is something we've been sitting on for a while, but we actually got to interview the grandson of Ed and Lorraine Warren. So get ready for that. He's going to dive into a lot of the Conjuring films, The Nun, Annabelle, talk about what's real, what's not real, his experiences living in over 90 countries, exorcisms. So it's a great episode. It's super long, so get ready, and that'll be out next Monday. And Bonnie, thank you again, and everybody have a great week.
Woo!